everyone, this is Natalia on Yachting International Radio, Luxury with Natalia. I've got a special guest all the way up in the snowy lands in Svalbard. Welcome, Jamal. How are you today?
Thank you. Very good. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming on. I appreciate this must be an exceptionally busy time of the year with so many events happening and well, luxury events and that, because your product is pretty much high end. So tell me a bit more, and the audience, what is Svalbardi and what do you do?
Okay. So Svalbardi is a ultra premium bottled water. It's sourced from icebergs gathered in the Svalbard archipelago, where we live, where I'm calling from, which is halfway between the top of Europe, Norway, and the North Pole. So we are sitting here in the middle of the Barents Sea and Arctic Ocean. And the territory is 60% covered by glaciers. We're one of Europe's last great wildernesses. And the icebergs here come from those glaciers that calve off into the sea. And then we go out, we charter an icebreaker, and we gather them one at a time. They're about half a ton to a ton, half a cubic meter to a cubic meter. Individually pick them to ensure we are getting some of the oldest ice that has essentially 4,000-year-old preserved snow from long before the Industrial Revolution and modern pollution. It's been protected since it first fell as snow. Now, living up here, the other reason that we were really inspired to create this product, beyond simply providing something very rare, unique, and pure, is, we live here and we see global warming. The latest report is that we have been warming 6 times as fast as the rest of the world. And I first came up here about 6 years ago, fell in love with this place, this wild Arctic place. And we've been living here for about the past 3 years, and we see these signs every single day. And so a big part of our motivation from the beginning was, how do we take a place like this that's so special and that is enduring such negative changes and do something to help it? And so that's a big part of what we do, is we say, we can take this problem and we can turn it into part of the solution. So every bottle sold is able to preserve, by supporting greenhouse gas reducing projects around the world, can preserve 100 times more ice than we utilize. So it's an opportunity to take something very special, unique, that is packaged just beautifully to reflect the provenance of the product and how rare and beautiful it is, and then use that to do good, to help preserve it, and do something very positive for the Arctic specifically, and the world as a whole.
Now that's awesome, exactly, because a lot of the times nowadays we're more conscious about how the product is coming together and what good does it actually do. Considering that you're out there and that we're consuming something of such a pure state, the question would naturally be, but how does that affect, the environment that you're retrieving this product from? So that's amazing to see you do that. And it's not just about taking, it is about giving back as well. We're very conscious about that here on Yachting International Radio. So for anyone out there, it is actually an eco-friendly, let's say, sustainable product that that gives back. So well done. That's awesome. And tell us a bit more about the quantities that you can actually retrieve, because I suppose the price of the product reflects the work that goes into it, correct? And also the availability. So is there a limited edition? How many bottles you can get every year, or?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we charter the vessels we bring out, obviously they've got to be ice class and be able to handle where we're going. They have to have the right equipment and those sorts of things. Typically speaking, we're quite limited, and we can gather enough ice on one trip for I would say a maximum about 10 tons of ice if we were getting one of the larger vessels we've been utilizing. Mm-hmm. On several, though, we went out, for example, in one trip, we didn't know if we'd ever be able to do it, but we were short on inventory and decided we had to give it a shot. We went out in the dark season when it's 24-hour dark. And we had only about 50 meters visibility with snow, and we only managed to get 2 icebergs, so enough for, if we were lucky, maybe 1,500 bottles. Uh-huh. So we've been limited like that. We've got some that were more like 10,000 bottles, but it's subject to not just the size of the vessel, but also the weather conditions, the ice conditions, where are icebergs calving? The glaciers move at different paces, so we have good connections here with glaciologists, boat captains, and even some satellite imagery. But it can be a bit of a crapshoot. You know, you can go out there and wind up not being able to get anything, or you can go out there and find really good conditions. We've had both sort of ends of the spectrum happen.
Sounds fascinating. And do you ever invite guests or people who are keen to see how the process is done to come and experience it?
Yeah, so it's what we've done several times is, you know, I've essentially told people, hey, if you want to come and help us on the gathering, you can have a free trip with us. And it's a funny thing because there's so many outdoor adventurers up here.
Yeah.
We went on one trip and I literally posted on one of the town Facebook pages at 10 p.m. before a 6 a.m. departure, and I had more volunteers than I could handle. But we've had journalists request, and we've had, you know, other guests and things like that, local friends, things like that. So we've had some people, and we're absolutely open. You know, if there are others who want to join us, talk to us. We can see about making arrangements. We've met a lot of very interesting people through the process.
Amazing. Yeah, because I've been talking to a few companies that organize experiential travel at the higher end, and it seems that not only is it to experience the wildlife and see what's out there and push your limits in terms of freezing conditions, let's say, but it's about actually doing something good. So if you as Svalbardi are already doing something good for the environment, and in the process you can see how it all comes together, I think that would be kind of neat, maybe to tag on, and if anyone's interested to go out there and see how it's done.
Absolutely, and we've talked about arranging sort of official tours. People could come up. You know, we have a lot of expedition vessels that come up here, increasing amounts of yachts, things like that. So it seems like a natural opportunity we could offer to people. You know, there's a lot of tour offerings up here, but nothing like this, obviously.
Yeah.
And another one of the things, we're very proud of here is, you know, the economy up here has been changing rapidly. For a century, this was a mining town, and that has pretty much gone away now. And ecotourism has really boomed and sort of taken over, along with scientific research and things like that. But the thing is, with a lot of ecotourism, you have a very, very heavy footprint on the ground. Whereas, so you have a lot of people going into the wilderness, and you know, then you're impacting potentially wildlife, and obviously done responsibly, that can be just fine. But for the amount of revenue we generate for the local economy, my rough calculations are we have only about 1% of the environmental footprint, actual sort of man days out in the wilderness versus, you know, standard ecotourism. Wow. So it's an opportunity as well to do things in a way with a very light footprint that, again, then goes on to have a very positive net impact on the environment.
Yeah, sure. I was going to say, I mean, you don't want to overdo it either, because that will affect the quality of what you're doing, and also what other businesses, small business, I guess, or various size businesses are doing out there. So, wow. So what else is going on up there in Svalbard?
Well, as I said, ecotourism has really been growing. Scientific research has been a big part of what goes up on here, especially weather research, for well over a century. And that is actually why Svalbard has become one of the most important centers for global research warming in the world. It's funny because Svalbard did not belong to any country until after World War I, when Norway was awarded it in a special treaty. But because it was so strategically important for centuries, you had various governments and countries that wanted to have a foothold up here, so they ran weather research stations. And for whatever geostrategic reasons, the positive impact has been we have long environmental records up here that are very, very valuable, especially today. So a lot of that scientific research goes on. We actually have the world's northernmost university up here. Most everything up here is the world's northernmost, including the world's northernmost bottled water, of course. Yes. So scientific research, education, ecotourism. We actually have a very, very surprisingly good dining scene as well. We have several world-class restaurants. which, yeah, many people are very surprised by, but it's that almost in and of itself makes it a destination worth visiting. So, you know, these are the kinds of industries we have. It's very important for Norway up here to have a presence. It is very, very different from mainland Norway in that same treaty that awarded Svalbard to Norway, called the Svalbard Treaty, says that any of the signatory nations, their citizens have an equal right to live up here and do business visa-free, as long as they can take care of sort of themselves financially. So we have, in a place that has less than 3,000 people, we have people from dozens of countries, right? So we have sites for Norwegians, we have a lot of Swedes, we have a lot of Thai folks, we have a lot of Filipino, from around Latin America, all over Europe, and even a very small number of Americans, such as myself. So it's a very diverse community, and that is, you know, a very nice part of what goes on here. We have a very vibrant community, and for a place this small, you know, a lot of things to do. And the other part of the community is we have a very large Russian community.
Okay.
There is actually a separate town called Barentsburg. One must take a helicopter from here to get there, or a boat, and that has about 800 people from a mixture of Russia and Ukraine primarily. So that adds a lot to the cultural diversity up here. So there's, yeah, it's very vibrant in that sense.
Amazing. I must come up because being a bit of a polyglot and don't know where I'm coming from myself, I'd love to go up there and see it. I do miss the snow a little bit, but just a little bit, not the dark times, but the coldest periods. Well, that's awesome. And then what a coincidence, because I first tasted your water, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago at a very luxurious event in Monaco. So tell me a bit about your expansion plans and how you got to where you're at today.
Yeah, okay. Well, when we first started, there was a question mark. You know, what is the market for this? Obviously, we're a luxury good. You know, the costs, as you can imagine, are very, very high. And it's such a unique product. You know, we realized from the start, this has to have packaging that reflects the nature of the product, how special it is, and all the effort that has to go into it. But there was a question. You know, where is the market for this? And I spent a lot of time researching, speaking with a few other brands, which were not at our price point, but certainly on the much more premium side, and trying to understand where the market could be, both geographically and the types of customers. And you know, what we've found is geographically, there's a market in most places. To begin with, we focused on Europe and the United States, especially through what we'd say, you could almost call them water connoisseurs, right? People who really understand the different tastes and terroirs of different waters, which, you know, many people are very, very dubious of at first, but actually love to run water tastings, you know, with different types of waters, and never had somebody walk away not understanding that, how unique they can be. So there is a whole community of people out there in the fine dining world, and just, you know, folks who really understand water, who are into that. So we have distributors, around a dozen distributors around the world, who are either focused on water or sort of gourmet goods, and can reach those kinds of customers. The biggest markets have been the United States, and then if I take the EU as a whole, Europe, and then we've had a little bit of expansion into Asia, which is likely to start picking up a lot more. The culture of understanding water and its uniqueness is less developed in Asia, but growing. In Southern Europe and into Germany are probably the places that have the greatest understanding of the uniqueness of waters, and I could call Central and Eastern Europe as well. But there's, you know, as you're probably well aware, there's a real culture of understanding different mineral waters and different types of waters, and bottled water in general, and that goes back to Roman times,
Right?
Which, you know, has not been as strong in other parts of the world. So it's been a natural sort of place to go to. So as we have expanded, you know, we have focused at the start on markets where that understanding is, and we're expanding to other places now as that market awareness grows. And of course, there are certainly plenty of customers who, simply love it for the presentation and the story as well, and what that means for them in a luxury setting and presenting the best to their guests, and what that means as well. So there's a bit of a variety in customers, and what we really like is the fact that this is a product with more than one USP. Right? There have been a few bottled waters out there at very high price points that have essentially been about nothing but having an extremely gaudy bottle. That's about it. Throw a whole bunch of crystals on a bottle and say we're luxury and charge a very high price. What we bring is something much more rounded and unique, something that has a customer appeal on multiple levels. One is absolutely the source and the story of where this comes from. This is such a special place, Svalbard, and being able to obtain icebergs the way it is. Another one is the fact that this is, an eco-luxury product. This is doing something very good to help save the place it comes from. Another is just the beautiful presentation. We've won many awards, and that is the sort of thing that catches, many people, their eye. We've certainly had plenty of people who say, "What? That's how could you pay that much for water?" And the next response is, "But it's a very beautiful bottle."
For sure.
So we get that, and it's a very tactile bottle. People pick it up and they like to take a look at it, and you've noticed that letter, the Icelandic letter at the end, sort of looks like a D with a line through it. So people kind of are like, "What is that? What does that mean?" So it's something that engages the customer. So. And then the dining aspect of the uniqueness of the taste, being almost zero minerals. So you have all these different aspects of the product that appeal, one USP or multiple USPs that are part of the product. It becomes very rounded. People appreciate it on many different levels.
Definitely, and I've still got my carafe as I use it now of the Svalbardi bottle, which is again something that you can reuse and have at home, and it's a multiple usage product. So I love that, I really do. And the fact that I wasn't aware there's actually water sommeliers, that's something fascinating, that you can actually have that and to distinguish the various tastes. Fascinating, and I can't wait for you to organize some more events down here in Monaco for clients to experience this, because I'm sure that's actually going to be more fun than going down the whole alley of we've done some wine tastings, because everyone does that, but doing water now, that's something. Yeah,
exactly. There's nothing quite like experiencing it, understanding different waters, and that's when I do tastings, I do it with different waters, because this is in many ways like wine, right? What's better, a red or a white? In and of itself, it's not about which is better, right? It's about the fact that each of them bring unique characteristics. Obviously, there are bad wines and there are bad waters, but in general, if you've got a good quality product, it's more about, okay, well, what does this pair well with? What's the story? What makes it unique? How's the presentation? And so I like to show people different waters so they can compare and contrast. I would say the American and Northern European palate does prefer a very low mineral water, like we do, with the exception of Germany, perhaps. And then around the world, it can vary a lot more. So, in terms of what's your favorite water, well, it's not about necessarily what's the best. It's about, okay, different types of water, and then you may have opinions within it. That's absolutely fine. Just try different waters for their characteristics, and we bring something that is really at the extreme end of the scale, right? So when we talk about the taste of waters, we usually talk about two main characteristics that impact. One is the mineral level and the types of minerals, and the other one is the carbonation, the level of carbonation. So we are at the extreme end of that. We have almost no minerals. Again, this is essentially 4,000-year-old snow, and obviously it's still water, so completely natural. Then you could compare that to something like, I'm not sure if people will be aware of this, but you have something called Borjomi from Georgia in the Caucasus. Extremely high mineral and just kind of blows your senses away in that sense. Or Vichy Catalan in Spain for something closer to home, very high sodium, large bubbles. So these are kind of the opposites. So you can take us at one extreme and those at the other extreme. and experience that. And then again, like many fine foods, it really is a case of appreciating the terroir, the story, how unique the product is as well.
Absolutely. And then going into that all important question, what is luxury to you?
So to me, luxury is about bringing something that is truly unique and I think handled and presented with care, with the hands-on touch to it. Every single aspect of what we do is around bringing something and presenting something in a way that people simply cannot find anywhere else. It's the sort of thing, we often say in the bottled water market that there are very low barriers to entry, right? Many people say, I've got this great spring on my property and I can go bottle water and do something. Okay, but to most customers, everybody's the purest. Everybody's got a picture of a running river on their bottle, whatever it is. And it is true. Most waters don't stand out that much in the consumer mind. Whereas, we have literally gone to the ends of the earth for our customers.
That's right.
To get something that is brought to them with great difficulty and care and presented beautifully, so that people can really understand how special this is. And to me, that's what luxury is about, is being able to see that something truly unique has been brought to me with great care and thought, and presented to me in that manner. And increasingly, I think that must be done in a way that does good. I think that's an increasing part of what luxury needs to be as well.
That is beautiful. Really nice definition there, Jamal. Thank you so much for that. And if anybody wants to get a hold of your water, how do they go about doing so?
Yes, so, locally in Monaco, Maison du Gusto, if I'm pronouncing that right. Sorry, I never took French. They're our local distributor, so they can be reached. And directly from our website is another option as well, Svalbardi.com. Local supplies, especially for yacht supply and things like that, Maison du Gusto is probably the best way, but we're available directly as well if needed.
Amazing. And do you have one last recipe or something that one could drink the water with that really makes it mind-blowing? I know that we're not an alcohol, but I just thought let's twist things up a little bit here and see.
Well, that's a funny thing is I actually don't drink alcohol, so I've learned a lot more about alcohol than I ever thought I would without ever drinking it. We've had many sommeliers, sample and taste, and what we're generally told is that as wines go, a very lightweight wine tends to be the best pairing. What I would say as well is that it goes well in two senses with food. One is, with very light foods, sushi, white fish, things like that. It really helps enhance and bring out the flavors. There's no minerals that are kind of competing with the flavor. And then as well, because of that, it really does very, very well as a palate cleanser. Not just that it's very light and refreshing, but because, again, it has no minerals, it doesn't leave you with an aftertaste into your next course. But we find, that because of the fact that it is so light, that it really does bring out the flavors of other items. Whiskey, we've been told, is particularly good because of that. It just helps release the flavors. But it works in general, especially for light foods.
Amazing. freezing, and then a bit of snow from up north as well, I guess, to put it and cool it down, just to keep that freshness going and pureness. Wow, thank you, Jamal. I'm really appreciative of your time here on the Yachting International Radio episode. Thank you, and I hope to meet you in Monaco soon for a wine tasting. I was going to say a water tasting session with some ultra high net worths, and God knows where we're going to end up. Maybe on a super yacht, explorer yacht, as that's the new trend now in the yachting scene. So I hope to do that, and I wish you all the best, really, sincerely, for the future. It sounds like an amazing product you've got, and you're doing great because we can see you everywhere in the special events. So well done again.
Wonderful. Thank you. Appreciate you having us on.
Thanks, everyone, for watching this episode. Luxury with Natalia, Yachting International Radio. Tune in for more episodes coming soon. Take care, everyone.